Here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Transportation and Environment Subcommittee on Appropriations budget hearings. Today we have two agencies, the Maryland Auto Insurance Fund and the Motor Vehicle Administration. We are going to start with Maefe, the Maryland Auto Insurance Fund, and we will first hear from our analyst, Kelly Norton. Kelly, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am not able to share at the moment. It says disabled share.
And Cherie, can we give her?
Yeah, Cherie.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Here we are. Maryland Auto is an independent, non-budget state agency that operates on a calendar year basis. The calendar 22 budget increases 4.7% to $30.9 million. Personnel expenses decreased significantly for the insured division. However, the division sees an increase in incentive compensation. Other factors increasing the budget are computer-related costs and increased media costs. Here we have the insured division financial statement. The insured division is projected to have $56.3 million in income in calendar 22, down from $71.1 million in calendar 21. Expenditures are outpacing income. The division is projected to have a net loss of $14.6 million in calendar 22. The assessment threshold is expected to decline in 22. Maryland Auto should comment on the financial health of the insurance division and the likelihood of imposing an assessment in the future. Exhibit 3 shows the continued decrease in policies issued by the insured division. Gross written policies fell 24% in calendar 21, and policies in force fell 23%. Maryland Auto believes the continued decrease is a result of the pandemic and industry changes in underwriting practices and other auto insurers to maintain their market share. 44% of the policies issued by Maryland Auto are in Prince George's County, followed by Montgomery and Howard counties with 23.2%. Here we have the uninsured division's financial statement. The uninsured division is projected to have $5 million in income in calendar 22, down from $5.2 million in 21. Similar to the insured division, expenditures outpace income. The division is projected to have a $2.2 million loss and a surplus of $769,186. Maryland Auto should comment on how the shrinking surplus will affect the uninsured division. This exhibit shows the uninsured division's claim activity. Claims received decreased 11% in calendar 21, while claims assigned, settled, and outstanding have increased. Claims outstanding are outpacing pre-pandemic levels. The limited operations of courts in 2020 are believed to be the cause of the uptick in outstanding claims due to delayed cases. As noted in last year's analysis, premium finance companies or PFCs account for 95.7% of policies issued by Maryland Auto. The agency's installment plans, high down payments, and limited installments may be discouraging its use, costing customers an estimated additional $250 by choosing PFC plans. Senate Bill 278/House Bill 377 has been introduced to remove restrictions requiring the high down payments and limited number of installments. Maryland Auto should comment on the impact the proposed legislation will have on uninsured drivers, as well as the financial position of the uninsured division. In summation, there are no recommended actions because it is non-budgeted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for the analyst? Okay, I do not see anybody, so let me turn it over to Administrator Redmer for the agency's remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Good to see you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Although this is my second year doing this, I have to say this year I'm a little more intimidated than I was last year. And Mr. Chairman, that has nothing to do with you. It has more to do with seeing my good friends Chrissy Nizer and Secretary Ports on the screen. But it is a pleasure to be here. First, I want to thank Kelly Norton for her work on our budget this year. I know this is her first time, and it was certainly a pleasure in working with her. To respond to the questions that were asked, I'll start regarding the financial health of our insured division, and Maryland Auto continues to improve our financial results. At the end of 2021, as in our written testimony, the combined ratio had been lowered to 124%. And our year-end surplus for 2021 was $49 million, which I'm happy to say is $31 million above the $18 million assessment trigger. So there is no projected assessment anywhere in the foreseeable future. I would also like to add that we continue to aggressively manage our operating expenses, including our headcount. Even though there have been no layoffs or furloughs, we have reduced headcount from 212 in 2020 when I arrived to currently about 192 members at Maryland Auto. The next response will be regarding the shrinking surplus and how it could affect the uninsured division. And obviously the principal source of the uninsured division funding is the statutory portion of the state's uninsured motorist penalties, collections, and investment income. So naturally, if the state's contribution is reduced, it would at some point jeopardize our ability to pay claims as required by statute. Now, there's a couple things that come into play. There is not a strong effort by law enforcement that is writing tickets and penalties for uninsured motorists. More importantly than that, effective October the 1st of 2020, the uninsured division lost its ability to suspend driver's licenses for defaulted judgments due to the enactment of Senate Bill 234. So having the ability to suspend licenses obviously is or was a significant negotiating tool and leverage at our disposal that we no longer have, and that's had a significant impact on our collections. And then finally, and this is more historical, but over the years in the BRFA Act, we've lost $41 million from 95 to 11. Was 41 million was transferred from the uninsured division to the general fund through budget reconciliations. And then finally, our comments regarding the pending legislation, Mr. Chairman, regarding Senate Bill 278 and House Bill 377 that would remove the statutory restrictions regarding our installment plans. And we believe that with the passage of this legislation, we will see incremental growth in our policyholders due to our ability to insure folks by collecting a lower down payment than Maryland law currently provides. And as was mentioned by Kelly, 95% of our policyholders are financed through a premium finance company, paying in excess of 20% interest. And that additional cost takes some folks out of the marketplace. And we're confident that with the passage of House Bill 377, that we will see some incremental growth to our policyholder count. But more importantly than that, will make a meaningful impact of reducing the number of uninsured drivers that are on the road. And with that, Mr. Chairman, with me, I have Dave Pfeiffer, our Chief Operating Officer, and Paul Dieter, our Chief Financial Officer, and any of us would be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I know Marine Sergeant Ports appreciates you being intimidated by him. Any questions for Maefe? I don't see any questions from my colleagues. Mr. Administrator, a colleague asked me to relay a few questions to you, which I'll go ahead and do now, but appreciate you may not be able to
Sure.
in answers. One is, how much did Maefe return to customers during the pandemic in the form of premium refunds, because of that early period, maybe when there was
Sure.
fewer claims? Unfortunately, as Administrator Niger is going to be able to tell us, there was some of those accidents that did occur were much more difficult because of the higher rates of speed. But
that's true. We did not return any dividends to policyholders. The nature of our business, as mentioned earlier, we lose money every year, and unlike any other insurance company in the state, we actually price our product to lose money in specific areas because of our mission regarding affordability and taking folks off the road. So as an example, we have an affordability index. So in particularly low income areas, we actually price our premiums to lose up to 20% per year. So when the market changed, we were not in a position, sadly, to be able to return money to policyholders.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Administrator. He had a couple other questions that I'm going to follow up with you on.
Okay.
I think that concludes the hearing on the Maryland Auto Insurance Fund. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Colleagues, we're now going to turn to the Motor Vehicle Administration. I'm going to have to hand the gavel off to Vice Chair Chang, so I can go deal with an MVA bill in the Environment and Transportation Committee. But I think we can start with Kelly Norton with the analysis before I go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Give me one moment to share my screen. Similar to yesterday, it doesn't want to do it 2 times in a row. Let's see.
While we're waiting, thank you so much to Administrator Nizer for helping answer policy questions to the students at Glenbury High School. It was very much appreciated.
You're certainly welcome. I love the creativity and their interest in the issue. So we want to cultivate that, at that early age. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Right down the street from you is Glenbury High School, and they have a public policy signature program there. So very much appreciate your help to the young students there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we are. The MVA operating budget increases $4 million to $211.1 million in fiscal 23. The capital budget decreases $3.8 million to $34 million. MVA aims to implement efficient and effective processes to provide exemplary customer service. One of its methods in doing so is alternative service delivery. This includes transactions performed online, at self-serve kiosks, by mail, or the call center. MVA's goal is to have 69% of all transactions completed through ASD. Exhibit 1 shows that MVA exceeded that goal in fiscal 21 with 70.8% and expected to increase in fiscal 22 and 23. MVA also aims to keep transaction costs below or at $16. The average transaction cost in fiscal 21 was $17.77 after being abnormally high due to the pandemic's effect on operations in fiscal 2020. Costs are expected to be above the $16 goal in fiscal 22 and 23. MVA also measures its customer service through average customer wait and visit times. The goal is to have a wait time below or at 25 minutes and a visit time below or at 40 minutes. Exhibit 3 shows that wait time has decreased from 18 minutes to 13 minutes in fiscal 21 and that visit time has decreased from 28 minutes to 25. Both are expected to increase in fiscal 22, but remain below the goals. The majority of agency spending is on operations at 35%. The $4 million increase in operating costs is being driven by increased personnel expenses, such as salary increases, of retiree health insurance premiums, employees' retirement system, and overtime compensation. There's also been an increase in postage, electricity, and increased funding to this tuition reimbursement program. MVA has added 6.5 contractual full-time positions in fiscal 23 allowance to support the continued Real ID implementation. The consolidated 2022 through 2027, the 2022 through 2027 Consolidated Transportation Program, or CTP for MVA, totals $121.8 million. Exhibit shows the steady decline of capital expenses. This can be contributed to the completion of its Customer Connect project in fiscal 23 and the completion of the renovation of the Glen Burnie headquarters in fiscal 24. Exhibit 7 shows the projects and programs funded in the 22 through 27 CTP. The total cost for the three major projects is $12.8 million in fiscal 23, with a total cost of $138.8 million. There is $19.8 million in system preservation and minor projects for fiscal 23. The first issue deals with digital driver's licenses. This past fall, Apple announced it would be adding driver's licenses and state IDs to Apple Wallet, and that Maryland will be one of the states to support this new technology. Chapter 142 of 2019 authorized MVA to issue electronic credentials in addition to paper products. Digital driver's licenses are also known as mobile driver's licenses, or MDLs. These MDLs can be convenient. They allow a person to only share information needed for a transaction, such as age, without revealing the additional information on a paper license. There is the ability to not have to hand someone a physical item. The phone can be held up to a scanner. Also, they're believed to be more secure and less prone to counterfeiting. As with any technological advance, there are potential privacy and security issues. While Apple has stated that neither it nor issuing states would know when or where users present IDs, that is not a given for MDLs. The best practices for MDLs in general are still being worked out by various organizations such as the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. If MVA were to issue MDLs outside of Apple, there is the possibility that the state or third-party vendor could have access to where a person is presenting the MDL. There is also the potential for law enforcement officers to look through someone's phone if the officer physically takes the phone to scan the MDL and not simply scan it while the owner holds the phone. Giving the officer the phone could be seen as consent to search. MVA should be prepared to comment on when it expects the introduction of MDLs on Apple Wallet and other platforms, in addition to discussing any impediments to implementation and plans to address security and privacy concerns. The Department of Legislative Services recommends that MVA submit a report detailing how it will handle privacy issues with residents' information in future iterations of MDLs. The next issue relates to the ongoing impact of COVID on MVA operations. Since June 2020, MVA branches have been operating on an appointment-only system in conjunction with self-serve kiosks. MVA has attributed its lowered visit and wait time to the appointment-only system. MVA should comment on the likelihood of keeping an appointment-only system post-pandemic. The Real ID Act deadline has been pushed back until May 3rd, 2023. As of October 2021, 84% of holders of state-issued IDs have Real ID compliant products. 16% did not. Of those without Real ID compliant products, roughly half, 49.6%, have old IDs with no documents on file. 25.3% have old IDs with documents on file, and 25.1% have real IDs and no documents on file. MVA should comment on the primary impediments into bringing these MVA customers into real ID compliance. In summation, DLS recommends adopting the following narrative of a digital driver's license report that should include agency policies that will safeguard citizens' privacy as these electronic credentials are introduced and in future iterations, estimated costs for the necessary infrastructure to read/scan digital driver's licenses, proper training on how to use the associated technology, and necessary legislation needed to ensure a successful implementation. NDLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance for the pay-go budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair or Vice Chair. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Norton, for the analysis on the Motor Vehicles Administration. This afternoon, we have the Honorable James F. Ports, Jr., Maryland Department Secretary, Maryland Department of Transportation, Ms. Christine Nizer, the MVA Administrator, Mr. Preetam Harry, Director of Finance with M.MVA, Ms. Katie Kuhn McAvoy, Chief of Staff to N.MVA, Mr. Nagash Asafa with Director of IT and .MVA, and also Ms. Jacqueline Hartman, Chief Financial Officer of the Maryland Department of Transportation. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman Chang and members of the committee. For the record, again, my name is Jim Ports, Secretary of Maryland Department of Transportation. And of course, it's a pleasure to be before you here today to present MDOT's MVA's budget. I want to thank Kelly Norton for her thorough review. At MDOT, we are dedicated to providing Marylanders with the best customer service possible, as well as ensuring the safety of all of our roadways. MDOT MVA has made tremendous strides to improve customer service, especially over the last few months with the final phase of Customer Connect. Customer Connect gives customers and partners greater access to all their information online in one place. It's become a one-stop shop. MDOT MVA is also the home of Maryland Highway Safety Office, whose Maryland Strategic Highway Safety Plan covers 2021 through 2025 and provides a framework for our safety programs. Our Highway Safety Office partners with all of our local jurisdictions. We work closely with them to adopt the Strategic Highway Safety Plan in a way that works for them. Now, Mr. Vice Chairman, you may not know this, but I used to be the Deputy Administrator for NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And so this issue is extremely important to me personally, as far as highway safety goes. And I just want to stress this for a few seconds, because I believe that only working together at the local, the state, and the federal levels can we reduce fatalities and injuries. So I just want to go over real quickly the jurisdictions with local state highway safety plans. Actually, the ones that have been implemented first: Baltimore County, Cecil County, Harford County, Howard County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, City of Salisbury, and Washington County. Again, those all have highway safety plans, and we're very happy that they worked with us on those. And then this is where you can really help us on some of the other counties. And we have a few that are in progress: Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Town of Bel Air, Colbert County, Carroll County, Frederick County, Queen Anne's County, Riverdale Park and Prince George's County, and St. Mary's County. And again, I just want to say for the record that only working together we can reduce these fatalities and injuries. It's very important that the locals develop these plans so that we can work together to save lives. And we would appreciate your support and your partnership to encourage the local jurisdictions to adopt these plans. Again, if they need our help, Chrissy Niser's made it clear that they can adopt the state's plan, or we will continue to help them work on their own plan. And so I'm very proud of the work that MDOT MVA has accomplished in 2021, and I look forward to their continued success this year. With that, I would now like to turn it over to MDOT MVA Administrator Christine Nizer to address budget issues and recommendations.
Thank you, Secretary Ports. And it looks like we have our Chairman back, so Chairman Corman and Vice Chairman Chang and all the members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on our FY23 budget. And I also want to thank Kelly Norton for her work as well on the analysis. As the Secretary mentioned, we're very excited to roll out in December the final phase of Customer Connect, which is our IT modernization. I know over the years we've talked to you quite a bit about our old mainframe system. We are now finally off the mainframe and no longer require those COBOL programmers that are so difficult, as you all know, in order to maintain our systems. One of the exciting new developments we have is a My MBA account that allows all of our customers to see any information related to their driver's license, ID card, vehicle registration, vehicle emissions, any letters we sent them. So we are encouraging as many people as possible to sign up because it really puts all your information from the MBA at your own fingertips. You can look up the information and take appropriate actions. So you can log on to mba.maryland.gov and it's right there on the left-hand side. You can click on create my account. So far since December, 143,000 people have done that, but you'll hear a lot of us out there encouraging that to happen even more. We also have a new Maryland ID number. So many of you are familiar with the old SoundX number. It started with the first letter of your last name, and there was an algorithm based on your date of birth. Unfortunately, like any good algorithm, websites developed to figure out how you could decode it. And we know that the driver license number is used for a lot of things not driving related for identification purposes. And so we were sensitive to that. With the rollout of Customer Connect, we've deployed this new randomly issued ID number. Customers don't need to take any action. They can wait till the next time they interact with us and they'll be given that new number. It's the same amount of digits as the prior number so that our partners didn't have to make any changes to their systems, and it will interface back to that old number. So the data is completely seamless. But again, we think it's important because of the safety and security of that information that we hold for our Maryland residents. Appointments have continued, as was mentioned, and with Customer Connect, we've got some new functionality there as well. You actually have the ability to get text and email reminders now about your appointment to make sure that you don't forget about it or miss it. And now you can actually check yourself in. So the nice feature is you'll get that message, your email and text. You can check yourself in. And if you want to wait in your car because you're more comfortable doing that, you actually don't even have to come in the branch office until you're ready to be served. So again, looking at that efficiency. In Customer Connect, we also implemented a new queuing system that allows us to fully track the customer from the time they make the appointment through the end of their service, again, to make sure that we are treating them in the best way we possibly can. We are appointments only still, but we are serving the same number of customers and actually in some cases more customers than we were pre-pandemic. We are very proud of the fact that the wait time has decreased by about 5 minutes from FY19. It was 25.1 minutes compared to 20.3 minutes in FY22. Those are year-to-date numbers, obviously. In terms of alternative service delivery transactions, that continues to increase as well. Actually, in December, we were up to 77% of our transactions being completed by alternative methods. So really excited about that. I know it was mentioned that we had met the goal. That is something we constantly reevaluate what our goal is. And now that we're fully deployed in Customer Connect, we will be reevaluating that alternative service delivery goal and seeing if we should increase it. A key issue has been our CDL drivers and the trucking industry, obviously making sure that we have sufficient resources on the roadways. I'm proud to say that we've been able to cut down the wait time to be able to get a CDL skills appointment in half. We've made that progress by adding additional appointments as well as some verification in order to get an appointment. In fact, there are multiple branches where you can actually get a CDL skills test in less than 10 days. We've also been adding some employer testing programs. We used to have 15, we've added 4 more, and we've got 11 more employers waiting to be certified to be able to test drivers. So again, another good way to allow people to be tested conveniently. They've actually conducted more than 1,400 tests. So another great resource there. We can't do anything without our staff, and I'm so proud of how they've conducted themselves over the last several years during what has been challenging circumstances for everybody in order to ensure that they were compensated more appropriately. We have established a new prevailing wage, which means that no customer agent 1, 2, or 3 or driver license agent in that series will start below step 3. So when we did that, that's for new employees, as well as obviously our existing employees. Anybody that was below that level was bumped up. And so we're happy to be able to do that, frankly, under our existing budget with some assistance from the MDOT budget, but we didn't ask for any additional resources in order to be able to make that a salary increase for our employees. The Secretary touched on highway safety and obviously our commitment there. It really is about partnership, and that's the key. One thing I wanted to let you know about, make sure everybody is aware of, that we worked with the Maryland State Police, who obviously owns that crash data, as well as the State Highway Administration, to develop a fatality report that's available at zero-md.gov. That is updated on a monthly basis. It's broken down by jurisdiction. It's broken down in terms of pedestrian and type of crash. So if you ever have information and want to get monthly updates, please access that. And if there's questions or other things you'd like to see there, let me know. And we continue to work on that and to try to improve the transparency. I'll now review the specific recommendations and issues that were brought up as part of the DLS analysis. So for the first issue related to the mobile driver's license or digital driver's license, obviously it's a really exciting development. Maryland has been involved since the beginning. You may remember a few years ago, we actually did a pilot along with the National Institute of Standards and Technology. That allowed us to have MDOT employees process a digital driver's license at a few different locations. In fact, DC was another jurisdiction participating, so we actually did some reciprocity with some DC residents coming into Maryland. Subsequent to that pilot, we did pass enabling legislation. So we do have all the statutory provisions in place to allow that mobile DL to be presented in the same way that the physical license can be presented today. The benefits of mobile DL is that it only displays what's necessary. The age verification was mentioned. It's called data minimization approach. They don't need to know any more information than they do to complete the transaction. They don't even need to know your date of birth. They just need to know you're over 21 or over 18, depending on that transaction. So again, from a privacy standpoint, a control standpoint, you as the end user have the complete control. In addition to that, there is an international standard that MBA has been involved in the development of, and this is really a huge step forward because we know driver's licenses are used not only throughout the country, but also internationally. So we now have an international standard that Maryland is committed to ensuring that the solution we implement is consistent with. That obviously covers issuance as well as privacy information, and certainly we're happy to provide you with that. And I also just want to emphasize the mobile DL is a voluntary product. We know that not everybody will want it. There'll be some that'll be very interested, but others it's just not for them. And it's always intended to be in addition to the physical product and not something that would be required. Be happy to provide the report that was requested. We think this is a really interesting area. We do not yet have a date for the Apple deployment. It will be later this year, but we'll certainly keep you updated as that moves forward. On the second issue, in terms of appointment-only system, prior to the pandemic, as most of you probably remember, we did have appointments, in particular Real ID. We greatly expanded available appointments. We're actually up to about 31% of our transactions pre-pandemic that were happening that way. What was very clear is that it was a great experience for those customers, that 31% who had an appointment, but for everybody else, they were waiting longer because we were prioritizing the appointments first. So when the pandemic began, for obvious health and safety reasons, we went all appointment. It was very helpful as percentages changed in terms of capacity and locations. We were able to make those adjustments through the appointment process. But now, as I mentioned earlier, we are back to pre-pandemic and even higher levels. The appointments actually allow us to serve more customers because we don't have those peaks and valleys that we had before. It evens out the customer volume. It gives the customer an expectation of when they'll get in and out of the facility, allowing them to get on to their day, which is the important thing, and having that really great customer experience, as well as creating a better environment in the branch office. I know this is something our employees have spoken about a lot. When the customer has an expectation of when they're going to get in and out, that environment is much better. We've also added some new functionality. You can make a same-day appointment. And it's available at no charge. I went in this morning, there's tons of same-day appointments available. If you want a skills test, you can go to 9 different branch offices. You want a driver license appointment, go to 17 different branches today and be seen and have your transaction completed. So availability is very good. We've also added priority appointments. So like the other day it snowed, we were closed in certain locations. Those customers get priority to come back in. So we've tried to be very thoughtful about how we engage with our customers with an appointment. If a customer arrives at a branch without an appointment, there's a few things that might happen. Managers and supervisors have the discretion to be able to schedule them an appointment later that day or another day if that's convenient for them. But even in certain instances where maybe it's an elderly person who has a hard time walking around, they actually have the discretion to see that customer right then and there. So we've really tried to implement this in a way that works well for our customers and provides, again, that great customer experience. I did want to also mention you can walk in and return your tags as well, in addition to the kiosk transactions we mentioned. I know that's the chairman's interested in that and other bill that he referenced. So based on customer feedback, the wait time benefits, as well as the operational efficiencies, we really believe that our all appointment process really provides the best possible customer service experience for all of our customers. And then lastly, on Real ID, we continue to move forward. We are proud of our 85% compliance rate, one of the highest in the country. And really, if you remember, we are in a situation where over 1 million customers had that Real ID product and no documents on file, and we have reduced that significantly. So really proud of the great work employees have done there. When we look at the numbers, less than 200,000 customers will have products that have an expiration date past that May 2023 deadline, or can come in to renew. So we removed, with the help of the legislature, the time that you can renew for a year in advance. So now really anybody that has a product that expires up until May of 2024 will be able to come in and get that Real ID free of charge. We do plan to reach out to folks starting this May to educate them and let them know. But many of our customers who are left will come in during their normal renewal cycle. It's also important to remember that you don't have to have a Real ID. There are other products, including a passport, that can be used for those federal purposes. So I know in my talk to some customers, if they don't have to come in because they're normal renewal, they might choose to use one of those alternative documents. I did want to mention, because the legislature helped us pass that bill to be able to issue birth certificates, that we now have 3 branch offices who issue birth certificates. So you come in to complete your transaction, you don't have it. We actually have staff who've been trained by the Department of Health Vital Records. So more than 1,200 birth certificates have been issued. That means those customers are able to complete their Real ID transaction, not to have to leave. We only charge them the fee that is required for a birth certificate, no additional fee charged. They leave with that birth certificate that they can then use for any other purpose. So we're really proud of that program. Obviously, customers are really excited when they get that experience. So with that, obviously, we appreciate the DLS analysis, and we concur with the recommendations in terms of the operating budget as well as the PAYGO recommendations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Madam Administrator and Mr. Secretary. Appreciate your testimony. And I always like to recognize MVA is one of the biggest constituent service issues I think many of us get. So appreciate the work of your team, April King in particular, and the many people behind her, and helping us navigate all our constituent concerns. Any questions for the agency? I guess I was curious about a couple of the metrics you talked about, Exhibit 1 in the analyst report, which is the alternative transactions, and talking about the need to sort of now increase that goal because you've surpassed it. And frankly, COVID kind of helped you surpass it, maybe a silver lining. What are other states doing? I mean, I know in some areas you're really setting the bar for other states, but are other states past us on this? Are there other models we should be looking at? I mean, what's sort of the next step besides needing to evaluate it?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So I think the next step for us, we are one of the highest states in terms of alternative services. With appointments only, what we can do is when a customer makes an appointment, we can actually check their driver's license number to see if they're eligible to do that service online and let them know. Oftentimes, as I engage in customers, what I find out is they're just not aware that the transaction they're trying to complete is something that could be done online. So actually within the next month, we'll be able to implement, when you go online and make an appointment, you enter your driver's license number as part of that verification process. We're going to tell you, here's a link, you can go do this online. You'll still have your option. You can make an appointment just, if you choose to do so. But I think that awareness for the customer to be able to know they can do things online. There's also a lot that we deployed as part of Customer Connect that's not yet fully utilized. So for instance, our CDL drivers can now submit their medical certificates online. So I've been working with the trucking community to get the word out on that, because that's a huge efficiency gain if they don't have to actually come in the branch office or fax their documents in. So a lot of it now, I think, is up to us from an education standpoint. We have the tools now with Customer Connect, and now it's making customers aware and making them comfortable with the process. So that's what we'll really be focused on for the next 6 months or so.
Do you know if any other, thank you for that. Do you know if any other states, even pre-pandemic or planning to going forward, are going to be all appointment?
Yes, there are many states that are all appointment. There's some that have gone back and forth. Florida had an example where they were all appointment, went away from appointment, and just got deluged with residents, and so they actually went back to appointments to try to get the volumes back under control. And again, that customer experience. So it's all across the board. There are various different models with motor vehicle agencies. Some of them are handled by like local tax offices. There's just a variety of models out there. So some are all appointments still, and some are not. It just depends.
Yeah, I personally like the all appointment model, and I understand the efficiencies of it not being appointment optional. That makes a lot of sense. I just think in 3 or 5 years, people are no longer going to have that assumption they probably have now that you need an appointment because of COVID. And I'll just sort of be curious if there's a way to sort of brand it so that people understand that that's how you interact with this agency forever. It's not just a COVID thing. So just putting that out there. My only other
I've
question.
been amazed.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, I've been amazed that we haven't had more customers just show up, because that has been the nature of our interaction with our customers. The number, initially, of course, but after that initial transition period, it's been a really low volume of people that show up without an appointment. And that's why we can manage it in that way by, making an appointment later that day or fitting them in that day. So it's been very manageable. But as you said, it's something over time we'll have to continue to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I can't believe people aren't pounding down the door of the MBA. Everybody usually loves to go to the MBA.
It's a great place to be.
My second or my final question or line of inquiry is about Exhibit 2. Unfortunately, on that metric, the average cost per MBA transaction, you haven't been able to meet the goal. So I guess the question is there, what are the sort of next steps on that front? What can we do to help get to that goal?
Yeah, this is a real challenge because with more alternative services, it means more mailing. Most of you are probably aware, but the Postal Service has been increasing rates. They even did a special rate over the holiday period where they increased costs. And so, this is something that we are continuing to look at. I will say, post-deployment at Customer Connect, we're trying to make sure we're aligning our resources in the right way with our services, because we were so different in the past. We had all these various systems and different people supporting it. I will say from an IT perspective, we have decreased the number of IT contracts that we have to support our systems, because we don't have a variety of different systems that each have to be maintained separately. It's now under that one platform. So there are opportunities with this new deployment to look at those kind of efficiencies. And now that we are fully rolled out, we're going to continue to do that.
Thank you. Delegate Beitzel. You have to unmute, Delegate.
I got you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Administrator Nizer, a question about CDLs. I've had a lot of truck drivers that a lot of them have trouble navigating the system with their knowledge of the internet service and all that. But one of the big concerns they had is like they have to have a physical once a year, and getting appointments to get the physicals, and then going to urgent care centers and things where they have doctors that aren't familiar with the MVA forms and all that stuff. I've had some complaints from truck drivers that everything thought the forms were being completed, that their licenses are being that issue, to see how those kind of problems are being addressed.
Sure. So those, the requirement for the DOT physical is a federal requirement. So a doctor has to be certified by FMCSA in order to be able to give that physical and complete that paperwork. FMCSA has been doing some extensions of the DOT physical requirement, but they've been doing them on a rotating basis. So currently, if your DOT physical expired September 2021 or onward, you have an extension. They've been doing about 6-month periods at a time, I think hoping to at some point get back to normal, right, post-COVID. So there are some extensions in place. I will say there has been some confusion where people haven't submitted the DOT physical, but they had it. In that instance, all they have to do is provide us the DOT physical that was not submitted, and we can immediately add that CDL back in the header. The change that I mentioned about being able to submit the DOT physical online, really all they have to do is provide us their driver license number and scan in the document. And a lot of this, we're also talking to the employers, because in some cases, really the employers are the ones that help manage that process for them. So Louis Campion from the Maryland Motor Truck group actually reached out about doing some training. So we're going to be working with him in the coming months just to talk about all these new functions we have and how that motor truck community can better take advantage of them. Because I think if they understood, to your point, how to navigate it, we might get some additional usage there.
Dr. Weitzel, you good?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to just make a point real quickly. I know you had mentioned on Exhibit 1 that they increased it and they were able to make it possibly because of COVID, but I want to reference it because it looks that they were actually beating it in 2019 before COVID, and then decided to move that bar once they beat it. So I just want to make an observation that, under Christy Niser's leadership, that once they meet the criteria or the goal that they're trying to achieve, then they bump it up again so that they can strive for even a better, or more achievement, if you will.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for pointing that out. Just to be clear, I wasn't trying to take anything away from the administrator or MVA. I was just making the point that it went a little bit higher probably because of COVID, but you were already past the goal anyway and doing a good job. And I remember before COVID, under 2 secretaries ago, Administrator, you talking up the value of the appointment system and the online access and everything. So appreciate your work. Trust me, I don't have that same pleasant interaction with the Secretary for all the other TBUs. So we really appreciate the work you're doing. Let me turn it over to Vice Chair Chang.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, Administrator Niser, for your steadfast leadership just throughout all the years and just how the culture's changed here with the Motor Vehicles Administration. Also, so Maryland's all across really have a higher level of satisfaction because of your agency. The question I have is, and thank you so much for your help in the past with regard to this, the self-serve kiosk with the admissions program. Are there any updates at this time of how that's going?
Yeah, the self-serve kiosks are a very popular option. As you know, you get a reduced fee if you choose to do the test yourself. So customers who use it are very satisfied. I will say we are using both social media and our website to give alerts if there's ever an issue with the self-service kiosk, because I know that comes up in the past in terms of I went, I couldn't see it. So, tell your constituents to check social media as well as our website. We put the alerts up top whenever there's an issue with one of the kiosks. We get real-time updates, and so then our folks go in and make that available to our customers. We are in the process of doing a new RFP for the VEEP program, and part of that will look at kind of the alternative options available for customers, but that's not yet completed. So that is in process. We recognize, just like MBA services, vehicle emission services, customers want to do things when they want to do it. And so I'm always amazed. I look at the numbers, folks at 12 o'clock at night, midnight, essentially, are going in and completing the VEEP test. But I guess that's convenient to them if they get off shift work and they want to get that done and, again, get that benefit of the reduced fee. So it's an important part of the program. It's grown over the years, certainly grown with COVID. And so, because we were closed with the VEEP stations for a period of time where we were doing, providing testing stations for COVID.
Thank you very much, Administrator Niser. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I do not see any other questions. Let me just flag one more issue, just because you were talking about the VEEP stations, and I think we've had exchanges about this before. One of the issues in my area is people who tune their cars in such a way that they're quite noisy. The mufflers are very loud. And I know there's been a discussion about, can we use the emissions inspection process to try to, police might not be the right word, but flag some of those issues. I mean, I think the reality of it is people can take those sort of connections on and off to avoid it during an inspection, but just wanted to flag that through. I think there's some legislation on this topic as well.
Yeah, definitely understand that's an issue. And I know we've been working in certain communities, especially in Montgomery County, on certain roadways where folks, do those alterations and then race the cars and create quite a disturbance for neighborhoods in particular. So I know we've worked with MSP in terms of some enforcement efforts related to that. I know it has come up in the past about the vehicle emission stations. As you know, that is a contract with an outside vendor that does not currently cover that kind of, review to be done. So we would have to modify the contract if the legislator wanted to add that as part of the VEEP test. So these steps would have to be taken, but certainly we understand the nuisance that it creates in communities when folks make those modifications. Obviously, it's not consistent with the Maryland State Police Safety Inspection, but once that's completed, as you say, there's often modifications done.
Last call. Okay, I think we are all set. Colleagues, we will be back tomorrow at, I believe, 2 p.m. for a Purple Line briefing with the Department of Transportation and some others. So I look forward to seeing everybody then. Thank you all again. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.